First of all, I want to talk about Inzaghi. Before this game, there was not much talk about how good he is. Most of the focus were on Pep Guardiola and his machine called Manchester City. Transit TV, welcome to Reggie Football Show. Today marks the end of 2022-23 season on European football. This was marked with a very magnificent game today played between Manchester City and Inter Milan. A game that lived up to expectation. Going into this one, Manchester City were favorites and everybody expected them to win. And we all know it ended up that way. But we're going to talk through how this game panned out, what happened during the game, how tactically solid and sound the spectacle of the game today. It was a very interesting watch between two tactically sound teams who tried to outsmart each other, who showed a lot of resilience and discipline in position, in possession, and tried to control and hurt each other. This game had one glued to the screen for 90 minutes, for 95 minutes, so to say. At the end, MANCITY came out victorious. We're going to look at the setup of the two teams, the standard performance in the team, what worked for and against each of these teams, if any, and the emotions that followed at the end of the game. These are the issues we want to look at on this one, and to serve you some insightful and entertaining content. Before we go on this one, I want to remind you to subscribe to our channel if you have not done so yet. Like and share this video if you like it, if you enjoyed it. Get busy in the comment section. Give us your views on our post-match analysis. If you agree with what we say on this video or disagree, or your own views, what you learned, what you think helps City to win the game, and what Inter Milan would have done better. Let's go in this one. First of all, I want to talk about Inzaghi. Before this game, there was not much talk about how good he is. Most of the focus were on Pep Guardiola and his machine called Manchester City. We all know he has built this team, oiled this team, refreshed this team every year, prepared them, and Manchester City is a team to beat, if not the best team in Europe currently, presently. It is blessed. This team is blessed with players with enormous talent, solid discipline, and players of big stage. Players who are not shy to take responsibility. Players who have confidence and pride in what they can provide for their team and in this game. But I want to take a minute and talk about Inzaghi. This match, I'm not going to say it took Pep by surprise, but Inter Milan was set up in a very perfect way to play against City. Though I expected that, I knew they were going to be very difficult for City to break down. And I wouldn't have been surprised if they had won this game, honestly, because this is a very, very disciplined team. Inzaghi prepared this team. You will know that this team is well drilled, and they were up and ready for the challenge, and they stood up to it. I really give Inzaghi kudos, and I think he's a coach, he's a manager to watch in Europe in the coming seasons. He should be a coach that should be looked after, sought after by big teams in Europe who are looking for new managers. What he has done with Inter Milan this season shows that he knows what he's doing and he has what it takes to manage at the topmost level. I really want to give him kudos for what he has done with his team this season. The two teams set up in a pretty much similar way, but slightly different. Man City went with 3 at the back, 3-2-4-1. The 3 defenders were Akonji, Ruben Diaz, and Nathan Ake. Ake was a surprise inclusion in this game because he's been injured for the past couple of months or 3 months. I did not expect him to be part of this match, but Guardiola, as we all know, always shows up with some surprises in big games like this. This time around, it worked out for him. This season, one of the adaptations he has done to the way his teams play is being very solid at the back. He always opts out to play with 3 natural and established center backs at the back to give his team a very solid base going forward. So the Walker was dropped for this one, and Ake came in. In front of them was Rodri and John Stones. Then, of course, we know the usual suspects: Kevin De Bruyne, Ike Dogudan, Grealish, and Bernardo Silva. In front of them was Eden Haaland. Inter Milan went with pretty much the same 3-5-2. Up top, Dzeko, who was a former Man City player, with Luther Martinez, which they have done week in, week out for Inter Milan. So the setup was pretty much the same, and the game actually was played out in the same way, but in a very different approach. Inter Milan took the approach of exerting a lot of energy, discipline, and intensity, especially in the middle of the park. Edin Dzeko was deployed to drop deep to stop Rodri from progressing play for Man City, and he did this perfectly well. Yes, Rodri had a good game, but you could not say before the goal that he scored it was an outstanding game. Dzeko kept him very, I wouldn't say quiet, but he couldn't do much going forward because Dzeko was always dropping to mitigate any progress that Rodri was going to make to help Man City break Inter Milan down. So the game was almost a 50-50. At the end of the game, possession was 52-48. That would tell you that there wasn't, none of the teams was very dominant. It was a game played out with 2 teams who were sharing possession. And every statistics in the game also indicated so. So City, on the other hand, relied on using ball retention, moving the ball around, and patience to navigate through the game. All through the game, especially in the first half, they tried to keep the ball as much as they could. They were not quick in transition, and they just tried to figure out and walk through the Inter Milan team. This, I would say, wasn't very successful, and more so after Kevin De Bruyne got injured in the 30th minute. This is the second time this is going to happen in the final. Last year, if you remember, against Chelsea, the same thing happened and the team lost. And it became a very, very huge concern for Man City in this game after he was subbed in the 30th minute or so. To replace him was Phil Foden. This meant that Man City now had 3 players in the middle of the park who were all ball carriers. Before Foden was brought in, KDB used more of his insightful passes, trying to find Haaland, though he was unsuccessful many times. But when Foden came in, of course, it meant that Man City had to shift their tactics, shift their approach to the game, and they did more of ball carriage and runs, trying to break down the Inter Milan defense. This was successful because they created about 2 or 3 chances, which Foden was guilty of squashing 2 of them. And the goal that Man City scored also came from one of those runs by Bernardo Silva, who cut back and Rodri, just like he did against Bayern Munich, lashed onto the loose ball in front of Inter Milan 18, and that was the only goal of the game. So the game was pretty much played in the middle of the park. There was a lot of chase playing. Inter Milan tried as much as possible to stay in the game. They stayed disciplined. They were tactically sound, and they also created chances. They created a lot of chances. But I think the the moment that Inter Milan had a very major shift in their approach to the game was when Dzeko went down and was replaced by Lukaku. Lukaku gave Man City some problems, but a different problem from what Dzeko was giving. His coming into the game allowed Rodri more space to go forward. He himself also got some chances. He even blocked a goal attempt by his teammate. So for me, that was a very huge moment, losing Dzeko. Though we know the way Inter Milan has played for the last part of the season, they always make a substitution. Dzeko hardly finishes 90 minutes, but him being subbed in this one caused Inter Milan some loss of control, especially in the build-up stage or position for Man City, and which opened up the game and gave Rodri more space to drive forward and cause problems for Inter Milan. The game was very interesting, and it's more especially when Rodri got the goal. Obviously, that was the second minute or so. Inter Milan had to open up and try to drive forward, which they did and did very well. Created chances, but they could not take them. Kudos to Ederson, who made a couple of very, very important and huge saves to keep Man City ahead in the game. Even before the goal, he has saved Man City on a very huge relief after there was a mix-up between Ederson and Akanji, who also had a very good game. He came out and made himself as big as he could in front of Luther Martinez, who went with the striker instinct of being selfish to try to get the goal for himself instead of using Lukaku or the on-rushing midfielder in front of the Man City 18. So that's how most of the game panned out. The chances created were pretty much even. Man City had about 3 or 4 chances in the second half and they took one. Inter Milan, on the other hand, had about 3 or 4 chances as well. And unfortunately, they couldn't convert any, which meant that they lost the game. I will look at, as usual in other videos, contents that we drop in this channel. I'll look at the standout performers in this match, starting with Inter Milan. I will single out their goalkeeper, Onana. Onana was, for me, a very, very important player for Inter Milan. He had so much impact in any way that Inter Milan managed to break down Man City in this game. He was very patient, very confident on the ball, and very, very precise with his passes, both on the flanks and in the middle of the pitch. He caused City a lot of problems. And he made saves as well. Wasn't just good with his feet. He made some good saves and used his eye, especially against the first chance that Foden had. Used his eye to deceive Foden and had him play the ball where he wanted it to be played, and he made a very, very good save. At that point, it should have been 2-0, and that would have been the end of the game. So I will single him out as one of the standard performers in the match. Also, I will look at Dzeko. Dzeko, for as much as he remained on the pitch, Rodri could not make any major or impactful progress for Man City on the game. He made sure that Rodri was stopped from progressing games for Man City. So I will also pick him as one of the star performers for Inter Milan. The last but not the least will be Brozovic. I think he was the captain for the day. This guy showed a lot of energy, leadership, tenacity, and discipline in the middle of the park. He worked very hard for the team and provided leadership. Actually, for me, he should be. I know many will say Rodri will be man of the match because of the goal. He scored the goal, but I think man of the match for me was between Brozovic and Ederson of Man City. These are the three players. I know Inter Milan had a lot of players who played well in the match, but I'll pick these three as my standard performers. I will move to Man City. Of course, my number one performer for Man City is Ederson. Ederson, many have said that he's good with his feet, that he's not a very good stopper. But today, he proved so many wrong. Made so many important saves for Man City to keep them in the game when it was 0-0 and also maintain their lead when they went up 1-0. Ederson, of course, we know his distribution. Though he had a shaky start to the game, his first 2-3 distributions were successful and showed a little bit of panic. But he grew into the game, and his performance today ensured that Man City won this match and won this Champions League. Another standard performer for me is a usual suspect, who is Bernardo Silva. This guy looks, if you look at him, he looks like he has no energy in him. But this man is an embodiment of energy. He won't stop running. For the 95 minutes that he was on that pitch, he worked very hard for the team, with and without the ball. Defended well and was one of the major ball carriers for Man City today. Made insightful runs, provided the assists for the goal, and worked very hard and stayed very disciplined. He had a very solid game. I will also mention Rodri. This guy stepped up in the semi-finals against Bayern Munich to score a huge goal in the first leg. Today again, he did the same, exactly the same thing, almost in the same position, though this time with his right foot. Got a very, very important goal in the history of Manchester City that handed them over their first ever UEFA Champions League trophy. That handed Pep Guardiola his first and only UEFA Champions League trophy with Man City. A trophy many have used to rate his performance with Man City, saying that if he doesn't win this trophy, his coming to City is a failure. So Rodri today, with that goal, ensured that Pep Guardiola has won every trophy, major trophy that Man City have played in since he arrived 7-8 years ago. Rodri also gave a very tenacious performance today for Man City, broke up plays, and tried to progress play for the team anytime he has the space. He ensured that City stayed in the game and exerted some level of control in the midfield whenever the opportunity is given. The last but not the least is John Stones. I don't know how to talk about this man. I don't know how to talk about John Stones' performance in this game today. Pep Guardiola deployed him at the second defensive mid alongside Rodri and gave him a free role. I know this is not new, but today showed how technically gifted and sound John Stones is. Guardiola again has proven to many that he has the eye to extract all sorts of qualities for players that play under him. John Stones played almost like a creative midfielder for Man City today and caused Inter Milan a lot of problems. At some point, his shirt was even ripped. Yeah, John Stones for me was a very huge and major standout performer in the match today. End of the day, Manchester City have become the winners, the champions of Europe this season. I will not end this video without talking about the emotions that ran after the game. You could see Mika Richards almost in tears, hugging Man City players working for CBS on ground at Istanbul. Camera showed Pep Guardiola as well. You could see what this trophy meant for him. To him, he looked very emotional as well. Man City players were hugging each other very, very hard, showing how much they have dreamt and they have put into for this success. The emotions were very obvious and glaring. And also, it had to be, because this team, this squad had been judged not completely successful because they have not managed to win the UEFA Champions League trophy. And today they have managed to do that. Kudos to them. Congratulations, Pep Guardiola. Congrats, Man City team. Congrats, the owners of Man City, and congrats, the men behind who are making decisions. The scouts, anybody that's connected with Man City, congratulations to you. This was not, there are some final games that we have seen or teams have won that you could say it was a fluke or was a matter of luck or chance. But Man City this season have shown that, yes, all through the season, they're the best team in Europe. And ultimately, they crowned it today with a win of the UEFA Champions League finals against Inter Milan in Istanbul. Congrats one more time. Before we go, remember to share and like this video if you enjoyed it. If you have not subscribed, subscribe to our channel. And look out for our Europe Fan Fiesta, a roundup of the 2022-23 season in Europe. We're going to bring together, I've said so many times on this channel, fans of different clubs to discuss the just concluded season. Shall be looking at how so many teams operated and performed in the outgoing season, what fans expect their owners and managers to do in terms of the transfer market, and the expectations for next season as well. We shall be looking at the best performers for the season. We shall be picking Europe best 11. We shall be picking player of the season, goalkeeper of the season, and manager of the season. So look out for that video to be dropping by midweek. And hope to see you back on the channel. Like I said, let me know what you think about the game, our analysis. Do you agree or disagree with what I have discussed on this video? Let me know your comments or your thoughts on the game and this video. And bye for now.